We are live, man. Let's make sure we got it. Yep. Man, welcome to the channel. We've got a new channel going on here for you today. It's no longer the AC Plays doing gaming. Now that we've got sports going on, we're going to be talking and we're going to be keeping it real with you. So this channel now is AC Keeps It Real. We're going to keep it real with AC. We're going to talk about everything sports related. Football, we're going to mainly stick to NFL and college football, but remember, we're going to be going over all kind of stats. We're going to keep it real and let you know who I really think is good and who I think is not really good. But I just want to thank you guys for joining. If this is your first time coming to the channel, man, please hit that follow button, click the notification tab. That way, whenever we go live, we're going live a few times a week to discuss certain things, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that, man. So right now, today is Thursday, just before the Buffalo Bills get ready to play the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to take this chance real quick to recap week one. I kind of forgot to go live and recap week one before. So we're going to real quick knock that out. So let's pull it up for week one. Oh, there we go. I just want to move my YouTube channel right over here. So we've got that. There we go. All right. So week one, man, it was pretty good. Week one, I thought I watched most of the games. I thought week one was actually very entertaining. The week started off with the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Ravens, and just kind of like how we kind of thought it was going to happen. Usually Lamar Jackson plays pretty good against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season, but I mean, really, that's the Ravens' kryptonite is the Kansas City Chiefs, and Lamar just had a couple bad throws, especially towards the end where he threw that pass to Isaiah Likely, and he just didn't get his foot down in bounds. I thought it was a good pass, and Likely should have made that catch. Should have been able to been aware of where his feet were at. But if you're a Ravens fan, you still got to feel pretty good. You've got some solid tight ends, Likely, and of course Mark Andrews from Oklahoma. You got some really solid tight ends. I mean, all we need is I'm not a Ravens fan, but all you need for the Ravens, you just need to really be consistent, and Lamar Jackson's got to warm up. But the Ravens got to feel good. That's 2 games in a row now. They played Kansas City, and it's been like a 1-possession game. So they've had it close. They've had opportunities to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They just got to, execute and take care of business. The next game, which was on Friday, was the Philadelphia Eagles and the Packers. The Eagles won 34-29. And really, the main story for that game is Saquon Barkley. I mean, the New York Giants have got to be kicking themselves in the rear end. I mean, Saquon Barkley just runs berserk on the Packers, scoring 3 touchdowns. And I don't know how, if you're the Giants, you really thought it was best to keep Daniel Jones and not keep Saquon Barkley. That's another conversation right there. But Jordan Love gets hurt, obviously, and he's out for a few weeks. I think about the first month. He might be out for the first month. So that's going to be a big blow right there, really, because everybody was thinking the Packers were going to challenge for the North. Already, Detroit Lions are a really good team. And then you've got the Bears really feeling like they've got a good team also. And the Packers now, going to be without. I mean, they're going with Malik Willis. And, this would be his first opportunity to see really what he can do. I mean, some people thought he should be a first-round draft pick when he was coming out. So, I mean, we saw talks that people thought he should have been the top pick over Kenny Pickett. I mean, we kind of forget that he was in that draft. And thinking back to that draft, that was a terrible draft. Just not a good draft for quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett's your only first-round quarterback, and then you've got Malik Willis. And, yeah, that was just a really awful draft. That draft also had I can't remember his name now, quarterback from Ole Miss. I can't remember his name, but none of those quarterbacks are really playing. So, probably one of the weakest quarterback drafts out of the last 20 years. That was a really terrible quarterback draft. But yeah, the Eagles escaped. In my opinion, I didn't think Jalen Hurts looked very good. He threw 2 interceptions again. I believe he had a fumble also in the game. So let me pull up my my notes here. Earlier when I was breaking down just some of the quarterbacks and some of their stats since they've been in the league. Let's see, Jalen, where are you at? Oh, that's Baker. I think that was Joe Burrow. Here we go. Jalen Hurts was drafted in 2020, and we're now in 2024. So I won't count 2024 yet, but I guess I will because I'm sort of counting. I'll try to remove the touchdown interceptions, which is it's 2-2 for this year. So it's not really going to really affect too much. But in my personal opinion, I believe Jalen Hurts has really only had one good year. He's been in the NFL 4 years now. This is his 5th year. He's had one good year where he had a quarterback rating of a 101.5, and that was the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and he put on a show in the Super Bowl, and they lost to the Chiefs. But other than that, I mean, he was solid, I guess, decent year 2, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Last year, not that good to me. 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. I mean, so far, if you look at his career, he's got 67 touchdowns, 34 interceptions. So if you look at that math for 4 years, it's really right around like 17 touchdowns a year and like 34, like 8 interceptions. So I mean, I guess it's not terrible, but I mean, for some people to really be trying to put Jalen Hurts into that elite tier or even above average. Yes. Is he mobile? Sure. He's very strong. But when it comes to just purely throwing the football, I do not believe that Jalen Hurts is a above average quarterback. I believe he's an average quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles are stacked. I mean, that's a loaded team. Had a great offensive line. They had very good skill players, good tight ends. I mean, they had an awesome defense. I know last year the defense kind of fell off. And in my opinion, this is a very crucial year for Nick Sirianni, in my opinion. Like, are you the way forward? And to me, it should also be a crucial year for Jalen Hurts, because if you go and you continue to turn the ball over, I think we're going to know who you are. And you are a turnover machine. I don't really see how anyone's going to win a Super Bowl with you. And, that's my opinion on the Philadelphia Eagles. Then moving on to the next game, we've got Atlanta Falcons and Pittsburgh. And I got to be honest, I felt really, really good about Pittsburgh after watching them beat the Falcons, and I felt really concerned about the Falcons. You gave a lot of money to Kirk Cousins, and I'm sorry, he did not produce in week 1. The Atlanta Falcons do have some skill. They've got a pretty good offensive line. They've got probably top 5 tight end. I understand the receivers aren't the greatest, but I mean, you've got some weapons. You've got a really good running back. I think maybe the question marks would also be kind of the defense, because last year they probably should have drafted what's his name? Not Will Anderson. I can't remember his name. Defensive end from Alabama. They probably should have drafted him instead of drafting the quarterback for the future, they believe. They should have drafted more defense, but Justin Fields looked pretty good. I mean, I understand. They hit 6 field goals, and so he didn't really score any touchdowns. They won 18-10. The kicker kicked 6 field goals. That's a lot of field goals. So the kicker accounts for all the points. But Justin Fields took care of the ball. If you watched him throwing the football, he was very accurate. He threw some really good passes, and he's a fast quarterback. He is just very mobile. I think if they just continue to let him continue to get more comfortable and continue, like the way the Steelers are designed and built, they have a great defense. As long as Justin Fields can play ball control and take care of the football, the Steelers should be able to win some football games, especially in that division. I think the only team in my eye that's really better than Pittsburgh, in my opinion, is the Ravens. I'm not that high on the Bengals. I understand people love Joe Burrow, but this is going to be a big year for Joe Burrow. I mean, he doesn't have the running back anymore, because the running back now is in Houston. T. Higgins is probably going to show up sometime, but we'll have to see when. Jamar Chase, I know he wants a contract. They got some distractions on that team. So we're going to see. And Joe Burrow did not look good week 1, but we'll get to that. But I think the Steelers, realistically, like the ceiling for them is second place. And second place in the division is good enough for the playoffs. Like I'm a believer in Justin Fields. I believe if they just continue to ride with him and continue to develop him, I think and cater the offense. The offense is already run. It's a run-first offense. So I think that's the quarterback you need, not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is not very mobile anymore. I know the Russell Wilson from last year I thought was pretty good. I mean, I think he had at one point, he was like 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's pretty good, man. So Russell Wilson still makes good decisions, but that lack of mobility is going to be the reason why he takes a lot of sacks. He was the most sacked quarterback last year. So that's a big deal. I think Justin Fields should be the quarterback going forward, and it's his job to lose. Please make him the starter going forward and just see what's going on. The way the schedule is set up for them, they could realistically win these first be 4-0 before they've got to go play. I don't know who they're playing. Kansas City, I think, before they've got to go play the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I don't think you're beating the Chiefs, but your defense gives you a chance in any game. And then Justin Fields' running ability, as long as he just processes quickly, and that's the thing on Justin Fields. Can you process information, as quick as possible? If you don't see your first read open, move to read 2. Don't see read 2 open, move to 3, and then go. You got to have that clock in your head, man, and just get ready to go. But week 1, you've got to feel pretty good about, being 1-0, and you beat the Falcons, who a lot of people picked to win their division. And I think now some people are probably trying to backtrack on that because Kirk Cousins didn't look good. I mean, obviously he tore his Achilles. He just came back. I didn't think Kirk Cousins deserved all that money guaranteed, especially coming off of a Achilles tear and how old he is. But hey, go Falcons. Moving right on to the Arizona Cardinals, Buffalo Bills. I did kind of watch this game a little bit back and forth. I thought Josh Allen looked really good, man. And if you noticed towards the end of last year, a lot of people were, wondering why they got rid of Stephon Diggs. And that was because they started to realize they really didn't need Stephon Diggs. And that was why they moved on from him. Josh Allen, man, is just such a good athlete. I mean, he makes good decisions and he processes information quick. I know he still got sacked and was fumbled in that game. He had 1 fumble, but 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. I love the way this guy is built. He's a big quarterback. What was he, 6'5", about 240? Very fast, big cannon arm. I think Buffalo is going to just be a good football team. And tonight, them taking on the Miami Dolphins, I think this will tell us who is going to win that division. I think it's between those 2 teams. But Josh Allen, have yourself a day, bro. Putting yourself in week 1, square up in the MVP. I know it's very early, but everybody's talking about MVP all the time. And you did a good job, Josh, by performing against the Cardinals. I know it was the Cardinals, but I do believe the Cardinals are much improved. One thing that would be concerning for me from this game, especially for the Cardinals, I thought Kyler Murray looked good. But one thing I don't like is that your top draft pick, which was Marvin Harrison Jr., registered 1 catch. And I saw him running down the field, throwing his hand up wide open. And after the game, you see Kyler Murray made some statements about, the ball finds its way, to whoever, they make plays and he's looking for the open man, basically. It's not his job to get the ball to him. I disagree with you, sir. Just like when you had DeAndre Hopkins, you made sure, and I don't know if it's you, I'm not just blaming it on you. It's also on the head coach. The game plan's got to be put in the week. Hey, we've got 8 to 10 targets, plays that we're going to call that specifically are targeting Marvin Harrison Jr. first. You didn't spend a top 5 pick on Marvin Harrison Jr., who was, one of the highest graded wide receiver prospects, we've seen in, 20 years, right? Of course, we had Megatron, but nobody really knew Megatron was going to be that good. He came from Georgia Tech. So let's be honest. He didn't get a lot of reps. A lot of balls his way when he was in Georgia Tech. But Marvin Harrison Jr. got a lot of attention while he was at Ohio State. And you got to get him the ball, man. You've got to get this guy the football. I understand him being upset. What do you have him there for? mean, offensive coordinator, head coach, you need to get with Kyler Murray and get him on the same page with his wide receiver, because going forward, that's not going to work. You have got to get a dynamic playmaker like that, the football. And that's the only concern I have with the Cardinals. Other than that, I thought they played their butts off. It was a hard-fought game, 34-28, Buffalo. Good job, the Cardinals. I mean, if you want to take a moral win, sure. They had a lead in this game. They played good. Good job. Just got to get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved. Next game we're looking at is Chicago Bears, Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, man, really blew this game. I mean, it was like 17-3 at halftime, and they didn't score another point the rest of the game. Chicago comes away with a 24-17 win. And Caleb Williams did not play that way. He had a rough debut, but the one thing he didn't do was he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make any mistakes, right? So I think that's an important thing also. Like he wasn't the reason why they were getting killed. But I do like that the defense showed up. Special teams made some big plays. They don't need Caleb to be CJ Stroud rookie year. They just need Caleb to take care of the ball and manage the game. He has a lot of skill on the offensive side. I mean, I felt like Chicago was, and maybe that was me just drinking, sipping the juice. I thought Chicago was one of the most talented teams, especially on the offensive side, in the NFL. Looking at Keenan Allen, good God, I can't think of his name now. Number 2, DJ. He just signed a big contract. And then you draft Rome Odunze, and you've got Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. I think the offensive line is pretty good. Offensively, to be honest, in my opinion, you shouldn't be struggling like that. What that makes me think is Tennessee may have a pretty good defense this year. I'm not a believer in Will Levis at all. I just don't think Will Levis is any good. A quarterback from Kentucky, you can call me biased. I'm just not a believer in you, bro. So I do think probably in a couple years they'll be looking to the draft to draft a new quarterback. Will Levis made some really bonehead plays. One play is getting sacked. And, bro, you just got to eat it. You're winning the game or it's tied. You've got to eat it. Just take the sack. Instead, he tries to be Superman, Carson Wentz, basically, and throws the ball basically from his knees, and it gets returned for a pick six. You cannot do that. So I'm not a believer in Will Levis. He cost them the game. It's Will Levis's fault, in my opinion, that they lost. Their defense played good enough to win that game. But Will Levis, you can't do that, man. All right, now I'm moving on to one of the more impressive victories of week 1. The New England Patriots upsetting the Bengals. And they were a pretty big underdog in that game. So got to give it to Gerard Mayo. I love it, man. I love seeing the minority African-American coaches, getting opportunities. I love seeing them being successful. And what a great, great win. The one thing about Jacoby Brissett is I don't think Jacoby is really going to cost you a game. He's going to do what he's supposed to. He's going to manage a game. And as long as the defense, which New England's always had a good defense. And if you look at it last year, they were still one of the top defenses last year. They were just horrendous offensively. And it's not like, in my opinion, they're just that much better offensively. But, just run the football. You've got some good tight ends. I think you've got a little bit better skill position players on the wide out. Just take care of the ball. The Patriots really don't have room for error. They can't. If they turn the ball over, they're going to lose. They've got to take care of the football. The defense is good enough to limit teams like the Bengals and Joe Burrow to 10 points. So great victory, New England. Cincinnati, I thought Joe Burrow didn't look good at all. If we go look at the box score here for it, Joe Burrow was 21-29. That's pretty good, actually. 21-29. Only missed 8. Eight passes, but 164 yards. You completed 21 passes and you only got 164 yards. He was sacked 3 times for minus 10 yards. Jacoby Brissett, 15-24, 121. He was sacked 1 time. The big the player of the game for the offense in this game is Ramondre Stevenson from OU, baby. As you can tell, you probably didn't know that, but I'm a huge Sooner fan, man. Boomer Sooner, love it. And got a lot of Sooners in the NFL. And Ramondre, I loved him when he was here. I'm happy to see him succeeding and doing well in New England. And 25 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. 17 yards was the longest rush he had. Outstanding, man. I mean, really outstanding. I mean, the Bengals really didn't get anything. I mean, as a team rushing the football, 16 carries, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. Their best rusher was Zach Moss, who, if you know who Zach Moss is, he was actually the running back last year for the Colts while Jonathan Taylor was out. And he at one point was leading the NFL in rushing yards. So he was actually playing pretty good. I just don't think he's a Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, to me, is a special running back. And I think the Bengals are really going to miss him. And we'll get down to Joe Mixon a little bit later because he had a day. He was probably outside of the 49ers running back, but I can't think of his name because, I mean, who knew him before this week? But Joe Mixon was probably the most impressive running back outside of the 49ers and Saquon Barkley. I think Joe Mixon was, yeah. And Joe Mixon can do it all. So, anyways, good job there. Jamar Chase, 6 catches, 62 yards. He had 6 targets, so good job, really, for Jamar. They threw the ball to him 6 times. He caught all 6 of his balls, 28 yards the longest. Outside of him, though, because you don't have T. Higgins here anymore. You don't have I can't even think who that third receiver was. He's not on the team anymore, but this is why I say I don't think Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to have the type of year that they would have liked to have. You got rid of a lot of key players. And you don't have Higgins yet. So, you know, I understand Joe Burrow doesn't have a lot. I mean, you're throwing to Andre, I don't know how you say his name, Ozivas and Tanner Hudson, Trent Irwin, Charlie Jones. I mean, you're not really throwing to a lot of people. So, I mean, you know, if you look at the Patriots, it's the same for them. That's why I said they don't have a lot of skill. Austin Hooper's their leading receiver with 31 yards receiving. What? Then you got Tyquan Thornton. He was a rookie. He's not a rookie. He's now a second-year player out of Baylor, the speedster. Very fast, but only 2 catches, 27 yards. KJ Osborne, he's played for the Vikings. It was like one of their third receiver. He's there now. Hunter Henry, the other tight end. Demario Douglas, he was a rookie last year out of a small school like Memphis or something. I can't remember. Jalen Polk, he's the rookie out of Washington. And then Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, which he can catch out of the backfield too. So yeah, that's, you know, the Patriots definitely in this offseason really need to get some offensive players. So moving right along to the game that I thought was a really entertaining game. Houston Texans and the Colts. I mean, if you watch this game live, you saw Anthony Richardson started off really hot. I think at one point he was like 6 of 9 for like 115 yards. And one of those was a 60, almost a 70-yard touchdown throw. I mean, and then the ball was about in the air for 70 yards. I mean, an absolute cannon. We knew he had a big arm, but that throw, it might be the throw of the year. That was an amazing throw. He stumbles. He's basically kind of falling back off one leg and launches in the end zone. And it was nice to see him hit his receiver. I got to go to the box score to get his name because I'm just drawing a blank right now of Alec Pierce. There we go. He was a rookie last year out of Cincinnati. I remember that. And he's a speedster, very fast, 3 catches, 125, 1 touchdown. The long was at 60 yards. They call it touchdown. I thought it was a little bit longer than that, but I forgot it's where Anthony released it from. It was a 60-yard, but I mean, it was a beautiful throw. But the story for me is Joe Mixon's addition to Houston. You've also got Stephon Diggs, who has 2 touchdown catches. You know, he's got six catches, only 33 yards, but 2 touchdowns. Very nice. Nico Collins, once again, was phenomenal. 6 catches, 117 yards. He had that 50-yard catch over 2 guys. CJ Stroud, I can see why CJ said he was a top 5 quarterback, and I believe it. CJ Stroud is an elite quarterback. It is time to really look at him and view him in that category, in that tier with, in my opinion, in that tier with the Mahomes and people say the Lamar Jackson, the Josh Allen. I don't know who else you put up there, but to me, CJ Stroud is in that company. I mean, he is a superstar quarterback. What he did last year as a rookie, throwing over 4,000 yards, leading his team to the playoffs. I thought if he hadn't missed those 2 games to an injury, CJ Stroud would have won the MVP award because he would have led the NFL in passing yards. I thought he would have won the MVP. First rookie to do that. That's how good he was. Like, some people don't understand how good of a year he had. And he had a historic year. And he picked up right where he left off. 24 for 32, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think what we're getting ready to see, and I looked across the NFL, and it was just kind of one of those stats. Defenses are better. They're playing better. You're not seeing a lot of quarterbacks throwing for over 300 yards. I think once we get out of all these games, nobody threw for 300 yards. Nobody. Baker Mayfield was probably the closest, but that's pretty crazy. It seems like we're almost going backwards, back to when, the NFL quarterbacks weren't. That's why they didn't have the numbers like Tom Brady ends up breaking, and Peyton Manning breaking all those records. But back in the early 90s, quarterbacks, they weren't just throwing for 300 yards. So we're going to have to see how the rest of the season continues to play out. But so far, 234, 2 touchdowns. I know it's a 17-game season, so that would still probably translate to 4,000 yards. But, man, I don't know if we're going to see any 5,000-yard passers this year. But great job here by the Houston Texans. I do think the Colts are a good team. And Anthony Richardson, I know he threw a really bad interception, 9 for 19, 9 completions for 212 yards. Like, just let that sink in. 9 completions, 212 yards. He had a 60-yard completion, a 54-yard completion to Ashton Dulin. And, I mean, there's 114 yards right there. So, I mean, the guy has an absolute cannon. I mean, he can go deep on you at any time. The safeties, when you're playing against the Colts, you better have your safeties trying to help deep because Alec Pierce is a burner, and he's going to go deep on you. So the Colts just need to – I don't think they're ready to compete. They need to continue to develop Anthony Richardson. I mean, but we did see him rushing the football, 6 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown. He had an awesome touchdown run where he just showed that strength of how strong he is. He's a very strong, very fast quarterback. I mean, just trucking people. I mean, this guy is what we thought. We thought he was a freak athlete. He is a very unique quarterback. I don't think we've really seen a quarterback like him. Some people might say, Cam Newton, but Cam Newton wasn't as fast, in my opinion, as Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is really a one-of-a-kind. We've never seen anything like this guy. And if he can just continue to improve, continue to make better decisions, continue to become a better thrower of the football, more accurate, my God, that guy is going to be an elite quarterback. But right now, CJ Stroud just is dominant. So, yep, like we said, that game there was very close. Houston won by 2, 29-27. Moving on, the Miami Dolphins and the Jaguars. And this game here is another game that I feel a team beat themselves. Let the victory escape them. The Jacksonville Jaguars were winning 17-7 at halftime and don't score another point the rest of the way. And they lose on a 52-yard field goal as time expires by Jason Sanders, and they lose 20-17. Tyreek Hill had an awesome touchdown. What was it, like a 70-yard? Let's see what it was. Tyreek Hill, let's go to receiving. 80-yard touchdown. He had 7 catches, 130 yards, and 1 touchdown. That 1 touchdown was 80 yards. Tyreek Hill's amazing. He's super fast, super elusive. I think he's probably one of the more difficult people to cover in the NFL. And some people might say in NFL history. I know they consider him one of the greatest receivers. I mean, he is just a very tough cover just because of that speed. And when you match him up with someone like a Jalen Waddle, who has 5 catches, 109 yards, 63 yards is the long, they have got speed all over that football field. Devin Achane, he has 7 catches, 76 yards. Just awesome. The only thing I'm going to say about Miami is I understand, you like to throw the football. And actually, I was wrong. Tua Tagovailoa was the only quarterback to go for over 300 yards. He did 338 yards passing and 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So Tua's probably going to lead the league in passing every damn year. I mean, with those type of people, they're a very pass-heavy team. The one thing that's going to kill them is that when they go up against a team that has a really good scheme and they're stopping the pass, are you going to be able to run the football? Okay, they rushed the ball 25 times, 81 yards. And those 81 yards are spread out between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ball carriers. You have 6 different guys touching the football. I don't know. I think you're going to have to try to have some balance. I know Tua has a lot of weapons, and the strength is on that side of the football. So good win by Miami. They're going to have a tough game here in about another hour, really about 30 minutes. They're going to have a tough game here with the Buffalo Bills, but a good week 1 win, and we'll see what happens tonight with them in Buffalo. Jacksonville, this to me is one of the more disappointing teams every year. And I had another take. If you watch my video, I pinged in my watch videos. I'm a caller who called in on the Cleveland talk show and left my little take in there because the Cleveland guy is saying that Baker Mayfield's a bust, which we'll talk about him later. But I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan, and Baker Mayfield's nowhere close to a bust. So anybody thinks that, you might want to reevaluate and really go pull some stats up and look at his overall career. But to me, Trevor Lawrence could be, real, and I'm not even calling him a bust, but I'm saying if anybody was to think that Baker Mayfield's a bust, then you're going to have to think that Trevor Lawrence is a bust. His numbers are worse than Baker Mayfield's. He underperforms. I mean, this guy to come out so hyped. Baker wasn't as hyped as Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was hyped up as being the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. That's saying a lot. I think Andrew Luck is one of the greatest rookie, quarterback prospects. Him and C.J. Stroud. Andrew Luck was above his time. He was an amazing quarterback. So to even be comparing Trevor Lawrence to Andrew Luck that's a lot of pressure. And has Trevor Lawrence lived up to that? No, not at all. Not at all. And this game, a great example. You can't even get your team into scoring position the entire half. 12 for 21, 162 yards, 1 touchdown. No picks. Okay. 3 sacks, minus 23 yards. You didn't really do anything to help your team win the football game. Tank Bigsby, 12 carries, 73 yards. Nice. That's a pretty good job. He's averaging 6 yards a carry. Tank Bigsby. Probably should have ran the football more. Travis Etienne Jr., 12 carries, 44 yards. Yeah. I mean, not bad. That's not, it's only 3 yards, like 3 point, was it 36, 48? Like 3.8 per carry. It's not terrible. I would have probably gave Tank Bigsby more carries, but Jacksonville just, in my opinion, Travis Etienne Jr. did lose a fumble. I don't know. I'm just not a big believer in Jacksonville. They didn't. Trevor Lawrence got a lot to prove. You get this huge contract. I didn't believe he deserved that contract. He hasn't really shown me enough to warrant to be paid like your Dak Prescott's, like up there with the Mahomes, the Burrows. Like Burrow's been to Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence, you've really done nothing outside of one playoff game where you threw 4 interceptions in the first half, and then you come back in the second half and you beat Justin Herbert. And I have my own opinions about Herbert. So let's go ahead and move on from that game, though. Okay, we're going to move on from Jacksonville and the Dolphins. Like I said, that game was 20-17. Good job, Tua, throwing the football. One of the most laughter games of the day was the Saints just stomping the Panthers 47-10. And I mean, Carolina is at this point just a terrible organization. I mean, like, you first off, you pass on CJ Stroud for an undersized Bryce Young. And when the draft process came out, I know I didn't have a podcast going on then and talking sports, but amongst my friends and my family and people I talked to, I never thought Bryce Young was going to be a good quarterback. And Bryce Young to me is a bust. I don't care what they do, what anyone says. They're like, oh, but he has no weapons. Look, man, Bryce Young is the one that's sitting there just missing people, throwing the picks. I mean, he plays absolutely terrible. And he should have a good play caller. Canales, he came from the Buccaneers. He helped Baker Mayfield have a really good year. So now he's the play caller and head coach for Carolina. And this is what they look like. First play of the game, Bryce Young throws an interception. First play of the year. 13 for 30, 161, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks for minus 26 yards. That's not going to get it done. That is not going to get it done. I've seen enough of Bryce Young in 18 games that I just don't need to see anymore from Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is a bust. I think he's a terrible number 1 pick. And people are trying to make a lot of excuses, but 18 games is a pretty good sample size, and I'm just not seeing it, Bryce. You got a lot of work to do. But right now, my guy, it is going to be a long year. And for everything that Carolina gave up to jump up to get Bryce Young, and you could have took C.J. Stroud, I believe with all my heart, if C.J. Stroud is on Carolina, they're better than they are with Bryce Young because C.J. Stroud is a better quarterback. Derek Carr, 19 for 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 1 time. And he threw 3 touchdowns because if you watch the highlights, you see him. He's talking to, let me see, let's go to the defense. He's talking to J.C. Horn. And they're kind of yapping back and forth. And he lets J.C. Horn know, hey, I have 3 touchdowns on you. Embarrassing. But I got to say, Derek Carr, be humble, please. Because I think you're not all that good of a quarterback also. The Panthers are terrible. And you still got to play some really good teams. So you're getting ready to who does the Saints play next? It would be nice to see. Let's see who the Saints play next. I think they're playing the Cowboys. We're going to see what the Saints are really made of. Because Derek Carr, you're going to go up against a much better defense. And let's see if you can still do the same thing. If the Saints are able to beat the Cowboys, all right, then we'll probably know maybe the Saints are a little bit for real, at least in that division. I'm not saying they're for real for the NFC. I still think the Detroit Lions, the San Francisco 49ers are probably the class of the conference. I mean, those two are 1 and 2 in my opinion. I think the 49ers are just straight up awesome. Brock Purdy has taken enough crap from everybody to just say he's a system quarterback to show that he's not just a system quarterback. He's a point guard. He runs his offense the way it should run. I know a Shanahan offense is typically quarterback friendly, but Brock Purdy just looks like the real deal, right? I mean, now I do know last year I was kind of critical of him. I watched him in the Super Bowl against I'm sorry, I'm just so congested. I watched him in the Super Bowl, and he missed some throws. He looked like he's not a great down the field throwing quarterback, but when he's in the compounds of the offense, and when he's like he distributes the ball to the right person, right? So Brock Purdy's going to just have another good season. Now, are they going to win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy? I don't think so, because still he needs to show me that he can push the ball consistently deep down the field when a team takes away the middle of the field and things up close. You know, people like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, those guys do a real good job of run after the catch. So, yeah, he's going to have to prove that. Moving on, though, the Saints, like I said, Saints and the Panthers, really not a lot to say about that game. 47-10, embarrassment. The Panthers, Roger Goodell, I mean, and the NFL, y'all should just tell tell the Panthers to sell the team because I mean they're embarrassing. I just saw a report that they're selling tickets. You can buy a ticket to the game for $1.80. Are you kidding me? It's embarrassing. That's a terrible organization. Moving on though to another embarrassing organization. Minnesota Vikings beat the Giants 28-6. Sam Darnold starts the game off looking like an elite quarterback. But then Sam Darnold does what Sam Darnold does, and he still throws an interception. A 2-to-1 interception ratio. I'm not ready to say that Sam Darnold has proved to me that Sam Darnold is still what he is. He's a backup. Sam Darnold is always going to be a backup quarterback, So JJ McCarthy, please go ahead and continue to rehab and get better. You're the quarterback of the future. Sam Darnold, the Giants are terrible, and you still threw an interception. Like, you're just going to throw interceptions. And that was his problem coming out of USC. He had a lot of turnovers. So, from him seeing ghosts, that's what he said when he had played against New England, the guy just does not process information, does not process quickly enough. So that's my knock on him. You are a turnover machine. You're throwing to some of the better receivers and skill position in the NFL, and you still only are 2-to-1. So not really sold on you. Daniel Jones just looks absolutely horrendous. 22 completions, 42 attempts, 186 yards passing, 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times for 20 yards. Daniel Jones is not it. And, if you're a Giants fan, you should be very upset. The Giants passed on a lot of quarterbacks. I know they wanted to take Malik Neighbors, but I think you should have took a quarterback. You should have taken a quarterback, and maybe they'll just finish the year out. There's going to be a few quarterbacks, I think, in next year's draft, and maybe they can move away from Daniel Jones and have a less of a cap hit, but Daniel Jones is a career backup guy too. You're going to have to move on from Daniel Jones. He is not it. Getting rid of Saquon Barkley was just dumb to me. As a team, they had 5 guys rush the football, 21 carries, 74 yards. Longest rush, 14 yards. Saquon Barkley doubled their output. So I don't understand why they thought we don't want to pay Saquon. We don't want to keep Saquon. We'll rather pay Daniel Jones $40 million a year rather than pay Saquon Barkley, who helped lead us to the playoffs and win a playoff game. Not really understanding that. But anyways, let's move on. Nothing really more to say about that game. I just didn't think the quarterback play was that great. Sam Darnold has an opportunity this year to show what he can do, but I'm not a believer in him, so I don't believe that he's going to have stats that are going to warrant and make people think that he's changed the narrative about himself. Moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers and the Raiders. I thought the Chargers showed exactly what every Harbaugh team shows. Jim Harbaugh wants to be tough, physical, run the football, and J.K. Dobbins, if he can stay healthy, can run the football. And he rushed for 134 yards as the Chargers beat the Raiders 22-10. Now, I'm also not saying the Raiders are great. The Raiders are not a great football team. Sure, we all like the coach, but I don't think they're great. Now, the interesting thing about the Chargers is going to be that you have this quarterback who you're paying pretty good money to, and a lot of people feel he's in that elite tier. But 17 for 26 for 144 yards is not going to be elite output. And I don't really see how he's going to, if he's going to put numbers up that are going to put him in any kind of contention for anything. So I think as long as Justin Herbert doesn't turn the football over, what he'll see is his personal success really geared more towards it'll generate wins. So as long as he's not turning the football over, I believe he'll see a lot of wins. That's just something that I see. I think that'll be really good for him. He didn't turn the football over. He had Ladd McConkey, and he was rookie from Georgia, 5 catches, 39 yards, 1 touchdown. You got Quentin Johnson, their former first-round pick, 3 catches, 38 yards. They look a lot different now on the outside without Keenan Allen and, that other big guy they had. I can't even remember his name either now. He's not there. But the strength of this team seemed like it would be running the football. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. They got to be healthy. I don't expect the Chargers really to contend for anything. I believe the Raiders are not very good. They don't have a good, really good quarterback. I think Gardner Minshew is an average quarterback, 25 or 33, 257, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Okay. They don't have a great running back. Zamir White was leading the way. Devontae Adams, only 5 catches, 59 yards. I mean, the Raiders are not a good team. You know, they've got some good players. Sure, Max Crosby is a good player. But, I mean, the Raiders are going to have to start going into rebuild mode soon because they have no direction. They have no chance of really winning and competing for a championship. So, you know, I don't know. Moving on from that game, we're done with the Raiders. Going to the Broncos, Seahawks. This game was funny to me because you got, jeez, God dang it. What's your name? The Broncos coach. Someone in the chat can tell me. I can't even think of it. I don't even know why I can't think of his name. Sean. I can't think of his name now. Of course, you know, came from the Saints. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But anyways, he hyped up Bo Nix. I mean, he raved about Bo Nix all off season, how this guy is this and that. And Bo Nix throws 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. And the Broncos lose 26-20 to the Seahawks. I didn't see a lot of good things from Bo Nix. For him to be the oldest rookie out of the class, 25? He looked like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old. He looked terrible. I saw him throw some terrible interceptions right to the guys. And personally, I never thought Bo Nix was going to be that guy. I don't know why they would thought that. That guy played like 6 years in college, and he didn't never look good until he went to Oregon. And everybody looks good in Oregon. So, good luck, Broncos. You were talking a lot of shit about Russell Wilson. You want to get rid of him, especially when he was like 18-3 touchdown to interception ratio. You want to get rid of him. You didn't think he was good enough. Well, enjoy Bo Nix because I think this is going to be a very tough year. The Broncos are going to be a W on damn near everybody's calendar because Bo Nix is not it. Geno Smith, pedestrian effort, 18-25, 171, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The only really bright spot, in my opinion, on this was Kenneth Walker III, over 100 yards and a touchdown. I thought he did good. Geno had a nice long 34-yard touchdown run. Tyler Lockett looked pretty good. DK wasn't really involved as much as he should have been. So I still have faith in the Seahawks. I think they have a good defense. And I think as long as they can continue to try to just, I don't know, get in mid-season form, they got to get the ball to DK Metcalf a little bit more. And I think they'll be all right. They're not going to win their division, obviously. I got the 49ers winning that, but they're still going to win some games. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. I think Geno showed us like his best he can do, and everybody's kind of ready for him. So, we'll see. The Dallas Cowboys beating the Browns. Kind of funny. The Cowboys actually went into Cleveland as an underdog, and right before the game, Dak Prescott signs a new contract. He's the highest paid player in the NFL history at 4 years, $240 million. Puts him right at $60 million a year. And we kind of knew that was going to happen. We knew all offseason people were talking about Dak Prescott being the NFL's first ever $60 million man. And it happened. I mean, the way the market's going up, some people can agree, disagree with it. I don't really like it because you see players like Trevor Lawrence. You see players like Daniel Jones, just because their time comes, they start getting, Daniel Jones making $40 million a year. What? For a bum quarterback? That's crazy. Trevor Lawrence, for an average quarterback, is making like $55 million a year. What? Just because it's his time to make money, They get these quarterbacks are getting big contracts. But the Cowboys, they looked really good. Defense, I like the way the defense looked. They've always been a defense that just can get some pressure, and they can generate turnovers. And CeeDee Lamb looked good to me. Dak Prescott looked good. Once they had a big lead, which they were up 20-3 at halftime, 27-10, third quarter, they kind of pulled the brakes back, let up a little bit. Deshaun Watson looked like fucking shit. So they already knew Cleveland had no chance. And in Cleveland, man, you talk about blowing it. You draft Baker Mayfield number 1, and a lot of people can say what they want to. Hindsight is 2020. When the pre-draft process came out, nobody was high on Lamar Jackson. They were calling him a fringe first-round pick, possibly a second-round pick, and nobody was that high on Josh Allen. They thought he, coming from Wyoming, just wasn't as good. He didn't have great numbers from Wyoming. The quarterback that everyone was really trying to love on was Josh Chosen Rosen from UCLA and Sam Turnover Machine Darnold from USC. Baker Mayfield kind of snuck in there, right? And Cleveland had gone 1-32 prior to Baker Mayfield coming there. Hugh Jackson's the head coach. They started off 0-2. So now we've got Thursday Night Football at the Jets. I can't remember his name. I was trying to think of the quarterback's name. He's a more of a mobile quarterback. Tyrod Taylor. There we go. He gets injured. And when he gets injured, the Browns are already down like 14-0, I believe. And what happens? They insert the number 1 draft pick, Baker Mayfield. And what does he do? He plays awesome. Gives them their first win in 2 years. And then he goes on and proceeds to win 7 games that year. They had an opportunity to be at 500 and they lost. But Baker had a pretty good year. Broke the record that year for most passing touchdowns by a rookie. And just brought the Browns back to relevancy where they could hold their head up high and hold their chest out and feel good. Like, hey, we can compete. The future looks bright for us. Year 2, which also I forgot, year 1, they fire Hugh Jackson and they let Greg Williams take over. Probably about week 7, I believe. Greg Williams takes over. And from the time Greg Williams took over, the team started playing good. Freddie Kitchens was the offensive coordinator. Greg Williams, who was the defensive coordinator, is now the head coach. And the team is gelling. They're playing pretty good. I liked Greg Williams as the coach. He finished the year at like 5-3. I like what he did. I thought he should have got an opportunity to be the new head coach for the football team, but they decided not to go with Greg Williams. They decided to go a different route. I think Greg Williams ends up going to the Ravens to be their coordinator. And why does it look like my volume is? Anyways, they end up going with Freddie Kitchens as their head coach. And I think that was because they thought that Freddie and Baker Mayfield had a lot of chemistry together, based on what they did. They were trying to put somebody that was close with Baker in the front seat, even though Freddie Kitchens was relatively new. I think that was his first time ever being an offensive coordinator. He was like a quarterback coach or something like that. He was a small guy who got bumped up to the OC in the season. And then the next year they bumped him up to head coach, and it was a massive failure. Baker had a terrible year. Freddie Kitchens just looked completely over his head, and he was fired. He was fired at the end of the year. And Freddie Kitchens has not been a head coach ever since. And then next year, they hire Kevin Stefanski, who we all know is still there. Kevin Stefanski had just come off a, pretty successful offensive coordinator at Minnesota. He just had I can't think of his name, little quarterback that he kind of reminds me of Baker Mayfield, just not like Baker, but they're kind of similar. And he was a quarterback at like Houston or something like that. And he had just made he had just guided them. Case Keenum. There we go. Case Keenum. He had just guided them to the playoffs. So a lot of people were high on Kevin Stefanski. He came from that Kyle Shanahan tree. Like to have the little, multiple tight ends, run the football, play action pass. It seemed like a match made in heaven for Baker Mayfield. And year 3, they brought in Odell Beckham Jr., or that was actually year 2 with Freddie Kitchens. Didn't work out. So year 3, Kevin Stefanski is there. And it's still kind of not working out early in the year. I think Odell Beckham was just a very hard player to work with. He kind of likes to run his own routes, do his own thing. He thinks a lot more of himself than what he is. And it was hard for Baker to develop chemistry with him. If you recall them, those years, the chemistry came between him and Landry Jones. And Landry runs very good routes. Not Landry Jones. Jarvis Landry. I said Landry Jones. That was an old quarterback for Oklahoma. But anyways, Jarvis Landry runs very good routes, very precise routes. And him and Baker had a lot of good chemistry. Jarvis Landry had strong hands. I mean, made a lot of great catches. And the Browns finished the year strong from the moment that OBJ gets injured. They finished the year strong, make the playoffs, going to Pittsburgh, force like 4 turnovers in the first 5 possessions. Baker throws for 300 plus yards, and they beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Next week, they go to Kansas City. They play great. They knock Patrick Mahomes out of the game. So now the defense has to go up against an old, like 39-year-old career backup quarterback. And Myles Garrett and the defense, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, all these guys in the defense can't do their job. Baker Mayfield plays good. Nick Chubb plays amazing. The defense just can't show up. The Chiefs win the game. So, the next year, still, once again, a lot of hype surrounding them. Baker Mayfield plays great week 1 against Kansas City. They barely lose. And really, Baker tries to make something happen on the last drive and he throws an interception. But he still had a good game, over 300 yards. He played really good. He was like 340 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, the 1 pick at the very end. The very next week, it's the Chargers. I think he throws another pick in this game, and he's trying to make the tackle because he just probably frustrated. He threw a pick, trying to make a tackle, tears his labrum in his throwing shoulder, plays the rest of the year injured. I challenge anybody to go tear your labrum and go throw the football and see how successful you'll be. Yeah, he had a bad year. And a bad year with 17 touchdowns and 13 picks. The team doesn't make the playoffs. And then the Cleveland Browns decide, you know what? Let's go get Deshaun Watson. He hasn't played football a whole year. And he's got these pending sexual assault cases going on with him. Let's go and offer him a contract. Deshaun initially turns down the contract because I believe he wants to go to Carolina. That's where he's from. He wants to go to Carolina. It's closer for him where he's at. So he turns the contract down. Baker catches wind of this, and he's mad, which I don't blame him. He's very upset, and he doesn't want anything to do with them. Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Brown leadership are trying to get on a plane to go to Texas to meet up with Baker Mayfield and try to smooth things over, right? And Baker was already mad because if you recall the last game of the season against Pittsburgh, the end of the season, Kevin Stefanski decides that he's going to let a rookie left tackle go one-on-one with T.J. Watt. And Baker Mayfield gets 9 sacks in that game. Gets sacked 9 times. He was getting destroyed. Baker felt like Kevin Stefanski and the Browns were trying to sabotage him, trying to show that he's just not good. When, in my opinion, I kind of agree with him. You didn't think I was your investment because if you did, one, you would have probably told me to pack it up and sit down for the rest of the year and get healthy. And 2, you wouldn't have left a rookie on with T.J. Watt. You would have tried to protect me more also. I got sacked 9 times. Yeah, you didn't care. They offered Deshaun Watson after Baker Mayfield doesn't want to talk to them. They go back and meet Deshaun and they tell him, hey, you know what? We'll offer you a fully guaranteed contract because now they're desperate. Not only has Baker requested a trade and wants you to let go and he's mad, but you don't have any quarterbacks. Deshaun wisely, when you're saying, what? You're going to pay me $240 million, $230 million fully guaranteed? I'll take it. Smartly takes it. And so far, he has just looked terrible. I mean, he's never going to get back to who he was. And I just feel bad. I mean, this is the way things go for Cleveland. This is what Cleveland does. They make stupid decisions. The Haslam family, Andrew Berry, even Kevin Stefanski. This is y'all's fault. Kevin Stefanski, you're the head coach. You should have said something. You knew Baker fit your offense just fine. You needed to get him some more weapons. You needed to keep building. You had draft picks. You had money. You should have continued to build and not give up on it. But that's another story for another day. Moving on to the next game, and it moves right into our other player. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat Washington Commanders, and I hope their name goes back to the Washington Redskins. I see there's been a petition going around for it, so I really hope that happens. But, they beat the Commanders 37-20 in a game that really wasn't very close. But the player of the game is Money Baker Mayfield, 24 for 30, 289 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was the only quarterback in week 1 to throw for 4 touchdowns. He had a perfect passer rating. He played amazing. Bucky Irving, the rookie, running back out of Oregon, 9 carries for 62 yards. Good for you, Baker, man. To have gone through everything you've gone through. Last year for the Buccaneers, you make the Pro Bowl. You lead Tampa Bay to the playoffs. You smoke the Eagles in round 1. You went toe for toe with the Detroit Lions and had a lead. Should have won the game. Your defense didn't show up. We're going to see what the Buccaneers are really made of. But right now, these guys have a real shot. And if Baker can continue to play the way he's playing, and I don't want to hear anybody say, it's the Washington Redskins or Washington Commanders. Their defense sucks. They've got a really good defensive line. And if you watch that game, Baker Mayfield's kind of running for his life on a lot of plays. He is stepping up, dodging players, throwing on the run, like he's scrambling, like he's running for his life. He's moving around. Baker just played good. And that's what happens when you develop chemistry with your players. He's been somewhere a little bit longer now. People want to bring up what happened to him in Carolina. Carolina sucks, man. Who the fuck wants to be in Carolina? Baker Mayfield asked to be released from Carolina. No one wants to play in Carolina right now. He goes to the Rams where his stats were like 4 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. I thought he played good. Just when he got there, everybody's injured. How's he going to win games when his entire offensive line is on the injury list? Cooper Kupp is injured. That's why he's there. Everyone is injured. And they still have Matthew Stafford, who they're paying a lot of money to. I believe if Matthew Stafford wasn't there, if he retired, Sean McVay would have wanted to keep Baker Mayfield. He would have. He could have got a lot out of Baker. He would have loved to have kept Baker, but there's no point in keeping Baker when you have Matthew Stafford. What are you going to do? Have Baker sit on the bench for 3 to 4 years? Baker had already voiced to them that he wanted to be a starting quarterback. He wanted to play. He wanted to get a big contract. He wanted the opportunity. The Rams let him go. The Buccaneers take him on a prove it deal, and he proves it. And then he gets rewarded with about a 33 to 35 million a year contract. Good for you, Baker. Keep playing like this because he's still young. You're going to get another contract after this. It's going to be a pretty big contract, man. So, outstanding job for Baker, man. Can't really say enough about Baker. We only got 2 games left, and then we're done. And then it's going to be another game coming on here soon. But you've got the Lions and the Rams. The Rams are a good football team, man. However, though, they got some injuries. You got Puka Nacua got hurt in this game. He's going to be out for a few weeks, and that sucks for them. Detroit, though, is just a solid football team. That's my favorite team, and then probably the Bucs because I love Baker Mayfield. I've got players who I really like. I like the Houston Texans in the AFC, but my favorite team ever since Dan Campbell got hired is the Detroit Lions. I've been loving Dan Campbell. Just reminds me of an old school coach, and then I just love the Detroit Lions. They're tough. I really like them, and I think they are a favorite to make it to the Super Bowl. I believe they can do it. They need to stay healthy. Jamison Williams finally looked like that first round pick that was spent on him. He's fast. He had over 120 yards receiving a touchdown. This guy's a blazer. I mean, pairing him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra does a really good job moving the sticks. But Jameson Williams is going to take the top off the defense. So they've got a lot of weapons, man. Just a big-time win for Detroit, 26-20 in overtime. And then you got the Monday night game that ends week 1. The 49ers and the Jets. This game was really just a hyped-up game. Everybody was really interested in seeing what Aaron Rodgers was going to look like. And Aaron Rodgers came out looking pretty good, man, the first quarter. I watched him. He threw some really good balls. They were up 7-3 first quarter. And then it kind of goes downhill there for them. And they lose 32-19. Brock Purdy looked, pretty good. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he also didn't throw any interceptions. 19 for 29, 231. The story of the game is Jordan Mason, undrafted running back. And it seems like in a Shanahan offense, they always find undrafted running backs, man, to get the most out of them. Jordan Mason, 28 carries, 147, 1 touchdown. I mean, just have yourself a day. Brandon Ayuk early on looked rusty to me. I saw him drop a ball. He almost dropped another ball. He only had 2 catches, 28 yards. So I could see the rust. I think that'll get better. But the 49ers, to me, the defense looked just elite. The 49ers are going to be a tough team to beat, man. So that right there is going to recap week 1, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to get a good game tonight to put us into week 2 with the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. If I had to give my take on who I think is going to win this game, if you look at a cool stat, you've got Tua has like a 80% winning percentage anytime the weather is over, I think, 85 degrees. And today it's 87. So you would think Miami has a good chance to win. But the way I saw Josh Allen look week 1, and we'll see. He did have a little he had something on his wrist in that game after he had leaped in the end zone at one time and took a hit on one of those rushing touchdowns. So we'll see if the wrist is affected. But I think Buffalo has a really good shot to win this game. I think the Dolphins are the favorite. It's really anybody's game. So, yeah, that's going to be another game that I want to highlight for week 2 that I'm interested in is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Detroit Lions rematch of a divisional game last year. I think that game is going to let us know if Tampa Bay really is, if Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay are really ready to compete with the, for anything. Everybody consensus views are that the Detroit Lions are a top 5 NFL team. So if Tampa Bay can go into Detroit this week and beat them, it's going to say a lot. It's going to be a lot of confidence. The Colts going in to Lambeau Field, taking on the Packers. The Colts should win that game. You need to win that game. You're going up against a backup quarterback. I don't care. You should be able to win that football game. The Jets should be able to beat the Titans. The 49ers are playing the Vikings. 49ers should beat Minnesota. The Seattle Seahawks and the Patriots. That's going to be a toss-up game to me, to be honest. I'm going to go with the Patriots over the Seahawks. I think their defense is much better, and they're going to play ball control. I think the Patriots can beat Seahawks. The Commanders, I believe, are going to beat the Giants. I liked what I saw from Jaden Daniels in week 1. Tampa Bay was just better. But Jaden Daniels showed me enough that he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. Very fast, very quick. He just reminds you of Lamar Jackson. He's going to be a very good quarterback. The Chargers should beat the Panthers. I don't really see the Panthers getting many wins at all this year. I mean, they could go 0-17. I mean, really, I don't see them winning at all. The Jacksonville Jaguars, in my opinion, should beat the Browns. The Baltimore Ravens will bounce back and beat the Raiders. The Cardinals and the Rams, that's a toss-up game too. Right now, Arizona is at -1, so they're the favorite. That really lets you know anybody can win. It's in Arizona, so I'm going to give the edge also to Arizona. Cooper Kupp is still, though, on the Rams, so Stafford still has someone to throw to, but losing Puka Nacua is a big deal. The Broncos and the Steelers, I'm going with Pittsburgh. I just don't see also the Broncos having a lot of wins after the way I saw them look week 1. If they can turn it around, turn it around. But so far, after what I saw from Will Levis, I don't have a lot of faith in it. I believe the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the Bengals. I don't have a lot of faith in the Bengals either. They're missing way too many key pieces that they've had. And the Chiefs just looked good still. The defense looks good. They look good. Another game that I think is going to be a really good game will be the Bears and the Texans. The Bears have a good defense. They have a good offense. If Caleb Williams can come out this week and perform, that'd be a good game. I'm going with Houston, though, to beat the Bears. And they're 6.5. The spread is 6.5 point favorite. That's quite a bit of points. They only won by 2 last game. I could see it being a field goal game because the Bears have a good defense, but we'll see. That's going to be a good game though. And then Monday Night Football, Falcons and the Eagles. Yeah, Philadelphia should win that game as long as Jalen Hurts ain't turning the ball over the whole fucking game. So they should be able to win that game. But man, that's going to end it for us right there, man. Hope you guys, like I said, if it's your first time coming to the channel, hit the follow button, notification tab. That way, whenever I'm going live, I'm going to go live a few times a week. We're going to do one for college football. Also, I've got teams I'm very concerned about, my Sooners, and some teams that look very dominant. Texas Longhorns, Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama. There are some teams that look really good. So we're going to be talking about college football. Also, later on in the year, I'll be doing my mock draft for players who I feel like are going to be, potential first round picks. And yeah, man, without that being said, man, you guys have a great day, man. Hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you later on this week.